that's it. So I said I wasn't going to talk about my symptoms anymore. What I'm thinking about, right? So what I'm thinking about during this time, and I'll be making a video just about this. I'm trying to write a piece about it, but I'm really interested in the three symbols that are emerging from this, the visual symbols that we're all looking at day after day around this pandemic. One is, of course, that little guy with the spike, that little sphere, the germ itself of the coronavirus, an image which was made, by artists as a symbol, like a logo of the coronavirus. That's not what it actually looks like, and I think it's interesting that that's what is being put into our consciousness, right? And so I'm really curious about that image, especially because it looks also like, it looks like to me like a globe, a sphere, like a whole planet, with cell phone towers sticking out of it, or some sort of communication device spiking out of it all over the place. And also it looks like, it's an organic form. It looks like those spiky chestnuts that fall from the trees around here in the fall, I think. They're like seed pods, with brown seed pods with a stem and then these sharp spikes. It's interesting, and I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking also about the image of the map. We're all like we're going to that map, and it's sort of hyper vigilant. Like, let me check, is it coming toward us yet? And it's that you can look at the whole United States and see these sort of pulsing, like, areas where it's spreading. You can watch those circles get bigger, and then there are like little smaller circles in other states in the United States and other parts of North America, of Canada, of course, and then the whole world map. You see that great big explosion in China, and then our United States circle getting bigger and bigger, and Italy, of course. And then the third image I'm really interested in is that flattening the curve image, like that there's that hump, and then there's that flat curve. And so I'm just thinking about that. And then, and I'm writing about it, and what these images mean to us, and how they'll become part of the story that we remember. They're part of the collective conversation around these things and what they represent to us, what they say to us, what they say about us. And again, I want to look at these as symbols that the collective has made together, and that we're looking at together, and what story they're telling us. One thing I'll share is I had a dream about that map, where I dreamed that a globe, a little cartoon kind of, that blue marble earth that we are familiar with from when there was the first moon landing, and the astronauts turned the camera back on Earth for the first time, and we all got to look at the planet that we live on. That's the blue marble earth, and you can look that up online. If you Google those three words, you'll get a look at what I'm talking about. That planet, that image, was driving a little red car in my dream, and she was driving across the map, right? And so it wasn't the coronavirus map where, again, like where those pockets of contagion are, but it was a map. And clearly that image had gotten into my subconscious, my unconscious, right? My dream mind. And so anyway, the planet was driving a little red car, and red, of course, is a symbol of blood and also our humanity, right? And it's also the symbol of the body, right? So it's what makes us material. It makes us flesh and blood, right? So here's the planet driving our blood across these this map, and the map was divided into states, of course, and let's call them principalities or territories, because it was the whole earth in my dream. And so this little red car with the planet driving, going across this map, and what I noticed in the dream most strikingly was how I felt as I watched. I felt this hope coming back, this joy. So it wasn't like the planet was driving this red car to hurt us, but rather as she drove across each territory, it turned to gold. And the divisions between the territories were already outlined in gold. And so each territory which had a different color was turned to gold. So the blue was turned to gold, the green was turned to gold, the red was turned to gold. So each territory had a different color. Purple became gold, right? So for me, that dream was really powerful. And it gave me a sense of hope that this virus is not just out there wreaking havoc and chaos on our world. It's not just sending us to our rooms. It's not punishing us. That's the sense that I got from the dream, and also the sense that I get as an intuitive, just looking at the map of the collective as we go through this together, as I watch the way the world is responding individually and collectively. It doesn't feel like we're being punished. It feels like we're being communicated with. And I'm writing about that, and I'm sort of feeling into it. The other image I have that I want to talk about is Zoom. Yeah. And I'm going to be, I'll say more about this later, but for me there's a really interesting connection, I think, between some other symbols that are coming out of this story. The mask. So you have Zoom making everyone suddenly visible. I know in my own circle, when I hold Zoom calls, a lot of people are afraid to let us see them still, or they don't want us to see their messy house behind them, so they keep their image blank. You know, you have that option to turn your video on or off, right? And I'm so familiar with that. Here I am doing this series just to get myself in front of the camera, to make myself visible to myself, to you and to myself, right? And so here's Zoom inviting the whole world to become visible to each other, right? And of course, people are having these big Zoom conferences, you know, whole gatherings of. I just went to one today. Almost 200 people showed up for a conversation about the way a new language of love is emerging on the planet, right? And how this virus is connecting us in certain ways. I won't speak for what the conference said. I'll speak from my point of view. The virus is a love language. Love has many faces, you know. It's not attacking us. It's not an enemy. Not in that sense. We're not competing with the virus for our own lives. It's different. It's I wanna talk about that in writing, though. I want to get my thoughts clear before I talk about that. But this idea with Zoom, it's also a conversation with so much is here. I mean, I said this would be shorter, but it's already 16 minutes. But I have so much that I'm noticing. The relationship between Zoom and emergence, right? The emergence of our creativity, the emergence of a new way of being human, and this tool that's allowing that to happen even when we're stuck at home. But also the emergence of a conversation around leadership and narcissism, and the difference between leadership and narcissism. And Zoom, putting your face there, you know, and the narcissistic leadership that we have in so many countries that is all about, and certainly in the United States, it's all the way that our president, our leader, is talking about this crisis is how his ratings are, right? That there is profound narcissism, and also a kind of cavalier disconnection from the humanity and what people are really going through in the world right now, that is also quite sociopathic. But again, I'm not the one who's diagnosing him. That's already being done by many, many, many more qualified in that area than I. But so the connection between narcissism and Zoom and emergence, the urge to emerge, to be seen, our need to be seen, and how we mediate our need to be seen with the awareness that the one looking at us is also real, right? Because we're wanting to emerge and become real to others, be visible to others. We're also having to acknowledge that others are also real. And so, isn't it interesting that the other symbol that's emerging is the mask? Taking on the mask, taking off the mask to emerge, to be more real, to be visible on Zoom, putting on the mask to go out into the real world, to protect ourselves from this biological threat to our survival, right? So I talked a lot about the symbols and such today, and I think I'll leave it at that. But look for more. I'll be talking more about all of this, and in a more sort of thought-out way. But I want to leave you with just a couple of thoughts. As I was starting, I pulled 2 cards, and now I'll pull another. As I said at the beginning of this, I'm doing this so that I can emerge and become more comfortable in front of the camera. So there's a narcissistic quality there. There's a Zoom, like, look at me quality. There's also a way of an urge to keep a record of this time. What was I thinking as an artist, as a teacher? What was going on in my life at the time? Also recording my own symptoms for myself and for others. And so the cards that just came out spontaneously, I shuffled the cards. This is the first card that came up, record and record. So I'm recording myself, and I'm also making a record. The second card that came up was crown, and that's Corona means crown. So here we are having this wild synchronicity. And of course, crown is also about emerging, and as in the sovereignty of letting the sovereign self emerge into view, crowning yourself, right? And I'll also say that coronavirus is affecting the head more than anywhere else, the head and the throat, the sort of the 2 areas of communication, of becoming visible, of getting on the record, of being recorded. And then the third card I just picked right now was brave. And so I think this simple 3-card reading, making a record during the time of coronavirus, of my own emergence, becoming more courageous about being seen, me becoming courageous about being seen by you, and also you becoming courageous about being seen in your own way. And I'm guided to choose another card, so forgive me. Yeah. And so the last card for this is flow. And I like that was there, because I want to say that all of this is guided. And this emergence is the end, the coronavirus, all of it, everything that's happening is part of the flow of all that is moving through us and through the world, the flow of nature. And so this is one of those times when the flow is calling. It's emerging in a way that's difficult, that's challenging, and we're called on to be brave and to be sovereign and to allow it to allow, and to let it be a teacher and allow our native gifts, our sovereign gifts to emerge, right? So that when we look back on the record of this time, we can know that even though it was hard, that we can do hard things, that even though it was hard, we were able to meet what came, what flowed to us from the fullness of who we really are. So that's day 3. See you next time.